Are you ready to ditch your home router and begin your home lab journey, but you don't really know where to begin and you don't know what to buy to replace this thing? Well, today we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about what I did to replace this $50, $60 home router and replace it with a entirely new system so I could have a home lab so I can break up my IoT devices. I could break up my user network. I could have a guest network, all the things that you want to nerd out on. We're going to talk about how to do that in this video. So one of the first things you need to be doing is determine what your goals are when setting up your new home network, right? It's easy to say, I want to replace this device, but if you don't know what devices this constitutes, then you're going to be at a disservice because you're not going to know what to buy or how to make it so that your router that you bought at Walmart is replaced and your home network is not working, right? So what is your actual goal? Do you just want to get a little bit more familiar with home networking? Do you want to build a home lab? How far into the weeds do you want to go? Today, we're just going to scratch the surface and talk about how to replace this and what components to replace this with, and give you some of the feedback that I've learned through my journey of replacing my consumer router with a new system, right? So a new home lab and how I did it, and hopefully that'll help you build your new home lab. We're going to go over to the whiteboard because I think I've just been enjoying the whiteboard and drawing out diagrams and how network flows and what devices are needed and some of the brands that I would use or are currently using to build my home lab. Now that we're over here on the main computer, let's talk about what is all built into this box that you buy from Walmart, right? Or if you get one from your ISP, your Spectrum routers, what is all in that device? So you have your basic Netgear router. But what does this actually break down into, right? So first, it's a router, right? So it handles natting. It gives you, it gets an IP from your ISP, so you're probably your modem or whatever is over here, and then it can take all the private IPs, all the users over here, and it can get out to the internet, right? So that's one thing it can do. The next is, so it's just a basic router with NAT. And there's some other features that the Netgear router could have. So it could have, it could have QoS, it could have, quality of service, right? QoS. But it's very featureless, right? There's not a whole lot of features built into this Netgear router. So it has a router that does NAT and some, QoS and stuff like that. It's also a switch. So what is a switch? It gives you, so there's multiple ports over here on this Netgear router that you can plug your computer into here to get a hardwire network. So you need, it's a switch, it's a router, and then up here we have our wireless access points. So that's also one of the products that you would need. So an access point or AP. So really, this device is 3 devices in one, right? So it's your router, it's your switch, and your access point. So what do I need to buy in order to replace this one box? Well, I need 3 different things, right? So if that's a daunting task, I get it, right? It's because, well, why would I replace this one device with 3 devices? Well, because there's more features, right? So if you replace this router, and we're just going to say we're going to replace this with a firewall, doesn't matter. You're going to get more features out of your firewall/router than you're going to get with your consumer-based router. Switching, you're also going to get layer 2 and layer 3 capability. So if you want to break down into VLANs, most consumer routers, you're not going to have that ability. But if you buy a managed switch, then you'll have that ability, right? So you'll have the ability to create VLANs. You'll have you could do inter VLAN routing. You can do DHCP snooping and some of the security protocols that come on a layer 2, layer 3 switch. and then an access point, right? So Netgear isn't a terrible access point, but for Wi-Fi, there may be limitations to the signal, and it's an all-in-one device, right? So it's like, think about it as all-in-one shampoo, shampoo, conditioner, body wash. Are you going to get the same amount of benefit in a 3-in-1 that you would if you bought shampoo, a conditioner, and a body wash? No, because they serve different purposes, and when you combine them all, you're going to lack on the ability to do one thing better than the other. So if you focus and you have 3 separate products, you'll be able to do those 3 things really well instead of doing them all in one device. Okay. So now let's talk about some of the devices that I would buy or have bought to replace this one box. So first up, let's talk router / firewall, right? Routers or firewalls, I'm going to suggest still PfSense, right? It's kind of like the standard home lab firewall. PfSense is still open source for the most part. They're going down a path that I'm not totally okay with, because the last time I tried to download the PfSense software, it made me sign up and put a bunch of my information in. So I do not like that. So another option that I have been looking into is OpenSense, which is basically a fork from back in the day. I don't know all the history, but PfSense and OpenSense used to be like one thing, and then OpenSense forked off because they had difference in agreements. You know how that goes. So I am looking at OpenSense as an alternative to PfSense, because this is still open source. It has a lot of features that PfSense has. It has natting, it has DNS servers, it has DHCP, it has you can do WireGuard, VPN. You can do a whole lot of things. It's got proxying services. It's got a lot of things that you can do that matches PfSense. One thing about these box is this is just software, so you do have to get a box for it. So let's talk about boxes that you can buy. I went with a Supermicro super server. It was like a Sys E series, so I think it was the E200. I got it off of eBay for about $250. It had 4 gigs of RAM. It was an Intel processor that also had AES NI on it, which you want AES. Let's do AES NI on those boxes, because this is going to give you, it's a better crypto accelerator for your VPN services. So when you're looking at your processors, make sure that it's AES NI enabled. Another thing you can do is like Protectly has some good boxes, and those are on Amazon. If you have an old desktop, you can run it on an old desktop. Any server really you can run it on. So I've seen people run it on like a Dell R210i. So I have a couple of these. These are really nice boxes, and you can just install OpenSense or PfSense onto this box, and then configure it on there, and that's your firewall, right? An old desktop, you can get those online. I would suggest that you get something with 2 ports at least, because I like having an inside and versus an outside interface. I like to split them up. You could, if you get a switch that we can talk about later, you can have the ability to just run one, but you would have to VLAN it off, and it's just, I don't know. I like to have an inside and outside interface, but you can get away with one. I would suggest getting at least 2, right? Because then you can VLAN the other inside interface and have sub interfaces on that one interface. if you don't want to go the open source route, I'm a big fan of Ubiquity. They make a UDM product, which is a router and firewall all built into one. It's basically you order it, you set it up, you log in, and it's good to go, right? You don't have to get a server, you don't have to put the software on it, you don't have to do all that other things. If you just want something that you can just buy and start utilizing right away, Ubiquity, I think from what I've seen, the UDM is getting a lot better. There was some shortfall, especially in like the VPN realm, that they were lacking. I do watch a lot of Lawrence Systems here on YouTube, and he is a big Ubiquity fan as well. And he covers the UDM product a little bit better. But if you're also looking at, there's also like Firewall is like just a basic firewall. It comes in, you can get like a 2-port, or you can get like a 1-port. It doesn't really, it's very, very low grade firewall. There's not a whole lot of features from what I've read, but it's still a really good price point for what it is. So there's another option if you just want to buy the device with a OS already on it. You don't have to mess with any of that. The firewall is another option. Switches. Let's talk about switches, right? The reason you're going to want a managed versus unmanaged is with managed, you get to configure it the way that you want to, right? So an unmanaged switch is just basically a dummy switch. You plug in you plug in your firewall, and every device you plug into the rest of the switch is just going to be on the same network, right? You're not going to be able to divvy it up into VLANs and stuff like that. So you're going to want to get a managed switch to have VLANs, and you're going to want to look at a product that's going to suit you. So again, we have like the Ubiquity. Ubiquity is like I said, the Ubiquity has a lot of different products that you can buy. Switches, routers, firewalls, cameras, access points. I'm going to be suggesting Ubiquity a lot because it's a good brand. I've had success with their APs. And their price points for switches are still in the consumer price range. They are out of band management, so you do require like a server to manage those devices. So if you're not a fan of just having an they're in-band management, so they have to be on the same network as the managements. There's a lot of nuances to in-band versus out-of-band, but they're an in-band. Now they used to have an out-of-band solution before, but it doesn't really matter. Another one that I've recently seen is Ingenious. I have a couple people on LinkedIn, surprise, surprise, that do work at Ingenious, and their switches, they do have a consumer level switch and AP system that I think is really, really good. They have a lot of products that I've watched demo videos on, and they're pretty decent. So if you're looking for a brand new switch right off the gate, Ubiquity or Ingenious is what I would recommend. Now, you could go, what I did is the eBay route, and I just looked up Cisco. So I've been drinking the Kool-Aid of Cisco for a long time, and I got a 3560G enterprise grade switch. It's a layer 2, layer 3 switch. It's got 48 ports. It was $70. It's this thing is 25 years old. It's old, right? So it's decommissioned out of somebody's data center that they just decided to sell, right? I'm a big fan of buying stuff off of eBay. If you know me, I love eBay. I have very rarely had horror stories when it comes to eBay. So yeah, Cisco, Aruba, Arista, you can get really cheap enterprise level equipment for cheap, right? So the downside is that they're going to be more watts. So if you're paying for your you're paying for your electricity, I think my 3560G is 80 watts.
The Ubiquiti is probably 40 watts if you get the same, 48 port fanless switch. So it's half the wattage. It's going to cost you a couple extra dollars less to run it, or a couple dollars extra more to run the enterprise grade switch. But I personally like Cisco. It's got an out-of-band management system. You can SSH and manage it there too. But I personally like it. That's what I did. But there's different options, right? You can go Ubiquiti, you can go Cisco, and get something refurbished or out of a data center. So access points. Now that we have our firewall picked out, our switch picked out, now we need to talk about access points. So if you're running wireless, which your phones and your cameras and all those things, there's really only three suggestions that I have here. Again, it's going to go back to this. It's going to be basically the same thing that we talked about for switches. It's going to be Ubiquiti. It's going to be the ingenious switches for basically the brand new. So you can do like a Ubiquiti Lite 6 is what I have. It's around $100 and it works, right? It gives me about a half a gig of throughput, which is fine for most of my wireless devices. It's not the craziest and best access point, but it works. And Ingenious also has a consumer-based lineup as well, where it's basically the same as Ubiquiti, but just Ingenious. That has its own dashboard. You can set it up with your phone, things like that. Honorable mentions. There's always there's Netgear. There's a bunch of different consumer-based ones, but I recommend either Ingenious or Ubiquiti. And again, you could go the eBay route, right? And you could get a decommed Cisco access point, and it would work just fine, right? You can configure it. It's a little bit different to get consumer-based access points because you need their software to set it up, but you can do it. I wouldn't advise eBay. I would go, honestly, I really like the Ubiquiti access points. They've served me well. I would recommend doing that. And lastly, let's talk about diagram, right? So when you're setting up and we're just do a high level quick because we're already pretty over what I wanted to go over today anyways, but a high level diagram. So you have your internet ISP modem here. You're going to put, you're going to have one cable putting into your firewall and, PfSense, right? We'll talk about PfSense. From there, you're going to have your switch. So whatever you go with, I did a Cisco switch, 3560, and then you're going to have all your ports here. What you're going to do here is basically you're going to decide, what do I want? What devices do I have on my network? I have users. I have cameras. I have servers, XYZ, right? So for me, I would break it down into each one of these classification gets its own VLAN, right? So VLAN 1, 2, 3. On PfSense, you can break it down into separate VLANs so you got gig 0.1 for VLAN 1, and those will all be on this trunk port, passing all these VLANs out to the switch that you picked because it's managed and you can handle VLANs on the switch. And from there, you'll have your access point over here. And that will be also a trunk port, essentially, if you have wireless cameras. So you'll have a port here that will go up into the access point. And you will configure all your VLANs. So you'll pass all your VLANs 1, 2, and 3 up to your access point. And from there, you'll have separate SSIDs for those VLANs. So you'll tie your VLANs to SSIDs. And then when you have your phone, you're going to connect, okay, I'll have SSID users, right? We'll just make it simple. So I'll look on my wireless. When I go to Wi-Fi, I'll look, okay, this SSID users, log in with the username and password, and now I'm connected to this access point. All that traffic's being passed down to this switch, and then it's being passed to this firewall, and then out. From here, you can have blocking on the outside. You can be blocking. You can actually have firewall rules to block any inbound traffic. That way, you're protected on your side. If you want to have set up geo blocking, like I do, I have geo blocking. So anything going out to certain countries, I just block straight on my firewall. You can set up proxy servers. You can set up VPNs. You can set up pretty much everything on your PfSense firewall, right? And that's kind of the high level diagram of how you take a router that would have encompassed all of these three. So you would have just went modem to your Netgear router, and it would have encompassed, the routing piece, the switching piece, and the access point piece. Now you broke them up so you can get better quality out of your now firewall, your now separate switch, and now your separate access point. So you can have better quality, better throughput, and overall a more fun design, because now you can have now you can set up, when you get really into it, you can set up a whole lab with, servers over here, and you can have another firewall, a software firewall over here to block off your home lab. You got a bunch of things, you're running malware here, and you're trying to break into this computer here, but you don't want any of that traffic to get out into your actual network. You can start getting really complicated here. You can put line drops into all your rooms, so you can hardwire into the backbone. I mean, there's just so much you can do once you drop that consumer grade router that is beneficial, right? And we'll go into maybe another in a couple other videos. I'll break down maybe price points for firewalls, price points for switches, and access points a little bit more. That way, you guys kind of have an idea of what to look for as far as price points, and a little bit more in-depth conversation about that. That's it, guys. It was a little bit longer a video than I was planning on, but I really wanted to talk about the breaking down of the different products that are basically all in one into your router that you buy from Walmart. And I wanted to give you an idea of what you could buy to replace that, and then just a high level overview of that diagram of, okay, this is what the network flow is going to look like moving forward. I think I'll dive deeper into some of the network diagram piece and how we can break it up and actually configure those settings on your firewall and your switches and things like that. So stay tuned for those videos. And if you like the video, please like, subscribe, do all the things. What are you guys rocking in your home network? When did you decide to move away from a consumer grade router? Did you go PfSense? Did you go Protect? What devices did you run on your for your PfSense? Did you go Ubiquiti? Did you go Firewalla? What kind of products are you running in your home lab? Just let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video.